and your shoes get so hot.
Welcome back to Breakfast with Bob from Atlantic City and Challenge Atlantic City. We are here for the last couple days getting ready for the first ever Challenge Atlantic City coming up tomorrow. And our guest, six-time Ironman world champion, the gentleman who was just voted by Triathlete.com as the greatest male triathlete in history. And he gets to hang out. And he's got a beautiful new book out called The Art of Competition. Mark Allen, how the hell are you?
Hey, it's so great to be here. I've, you know, you hear about Atlantic City. It's one of those iconic places in the U.S. that they don't
gotta go to.
They don't have anywhere else.
No, and we're on the pier. We're on the pier. The place is closed now. We had to break in.
It's 9 in the morning, and we're the only ones who are up and alive here, I think.
Even Cinnabon is not open yet. That is unbelievable. So Grip, when you look at a new event, right? A challenge has a lot of great vibes around Challenge Roth. It's considered, I think, if you talk Ironman, Hawaii is the #1 event on the planet. I think Challenge Roth is number 2, just because 30 years, it's got the history, it's got the crowds, everything else. Have you been over there to see that race?
Yeah, I was. Excuse me, I was there a couple times, and you know, there one time I raced it, one time I was there just for hanging out.
I didn't know you raced that.
I did.
What?
Well, it was not my best race.
That's why we don't talk about it.
We don't talk about it, yeah. But anyway, you know, it was when I was there, and it's just such an amazing event because there's areas on the course where you have crowds, literally, they are like Tour de France times 10, you know, and I don't think there's any other venue for any triathlon that I've been to that has that type of just energy. You know, you're climbing the hill and the crowd is partying. I mean, we've seen all the videos, you've seen the stories, and when you're racing it, it really is mind-blowing because you're going up this thing and you think, I'm going to crash into every one of these people, and it just parts. It's like the subway in Japan when you jump in there and it's already packed. And, you know, it's in a certain way in an unlikely area. It's a small area. It's not like there's huge hotels and they do a lot of homestay.
14 hotel rooms in Roth. Not hotels. 14 hotel rooms in all of the area.
And they have, whatever, 250,000 people that show up for the event. It's a great brand. It's a great experience for people.
So the idea is to take that brand and move it around the world. And they've been expanding around the world. And this is the first one in the U.S. here in Atlantic City, and picking an iconic venue with running on the boardwalk and a great protected swim area and a bike ride supposedly is beautiful through these blueberry fields.
Blueberry capital of the United States.
Oh, wow.
So if I was riding, I'd probably be about a 7-hour ride because I'd have to stop and just get my bears full of berries.
So you're this weekend. You're here primarily to help out, support. What's your role?
Yeah, I'm here to just be a part of triathlon history.
Right.
You know, to have a first ever event. That's the only time that's ever going to happen. And yesterday I gave a talk at a sports medicine conference that was set up around, you know, performance and keeping athletes healthy and stuff. And the guy that was supposed to speak before me got stuck in Philadelphia, and he was going to be talking about sports psychology. So
who would be better than you?
Yeah, I filled in.
You filled in somehow.
I gave
you figured out sports psychology.
Yeah, I gave my personal stories. I said, you know, I've gone through just about every kind of emotional experience you can through racing, and that's the human element. That's the experience. And that's why we all do it. You
know, it's interesting. Yesterday we were interviewing Macca, and I was talking about the fact that he reached out to you to help him out at one point. And if you look at the people you've helped over the years, you talk Tim DeBoom, you talk Peter Reed, you talk Chris McCormick, right? And all those guys went on to win the Ironman World Championship. With each of those guys, what was it that they were? Obviously, they're physically talented, but there was something missing in either their approach or the way they raced.
Yeah, you know, I can't take a whole lot of credit for any one of those guys because it's like, you know, you have the world's best diamond that needs one last little chip on it to make it perfect.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of where I was at.
But without that chip, without that little buffing, right, it doesn't happen.
You know, Chris, I was actually talking with Tim O'Donnell about this yesterday. I said that, you know, when Chris came to me, he was having amazing success in the middle of the summer at Roth.
Right.
And then he would get to Kona, and he just couldn't put it together. And it was, from my perspective, it really looked like he was peaking in June or July, and that was where his fitness was where it should be in October. So he was getting ready too early, and then also because of that, by the time he got to Kona, he was too light. And I said,
too lean, which he probably never thought was possible.
Yeah,
because he's a big guy.
He's a big guy. So he said, I said, go do Roth, but do it on about half the training, or half the focus, and go into it heavy, so that when
10 pounds or so.
Yeah, so when you get to Kona, then you're in your peak shape, and then you are ready to go, and you're not too light. And so the next year he didn't change anything, and he had another lousy race. And then the following year, he put it all together. And
right.
So that was his thing that I helped with. Peter Reed, he was ready to quit the sport, and we just had some discussions and talked about a few key workouts, and all of a sudden he found that reason to come back and race.
Yeah.
So that was the biggie with him. We were actually on a sailboat going from Italy to over to Slovenia.
Oh my God, that's where you guys talked about this.
Yeah, it was he and Laurie Bowden and I, and it was after Ironman Austria.
Yeah.
And he had quit in Australia earlier that year.
Well, this is after he already won a title.
Yeah, he'd already won.
Yeah.
But he was done. He couldn't drum up another reason to race. And I
Right.
said, you have to evolve why this has importance to you each year.
Right.
What motivated you last year may not be what's going to carry you into the future. And it never occurred to him that those old motivations could be let go of, and that new ones could be found.
Right.
And so that's what he did. And then Tim DeBoom, he had the right mindset. He just didn't have some of the key training that he needed to do. And he was living in Boulder, Colorado, and training out there. So that's where I did all my my hard work to get ready for Kona. So I said, okay, here's some workouts, some routes that you should try, and this is when you should do them. And these are the distances you should do on those routes, and put it together.
I love that. Well, one of the things that Mac has said that really made a difference was the fact that you had some struggles in Kona was really helpful, because it wasn't like, Dave Scott he won every time he went. So it's like, hey, this is what you need to do. It's like, well, he's never struggled. Mark has struggled on that course and getting ready for that race. And that was so important to me, because he could relate to what I was going through, the disappointments of, I think I'm so ready, and then on race day I'm flat, or on race day I just don't have it.
After he won that first time, because we talked about the struggles, and
right.
I said, you're going to have to go deep in there, and he said it either at the finish line or at the awards, I can't remember which, but he said, I knew it was going to be hard, I knew it was going to be tough, that I was going to have to look deep inside. He said, I didn't know how deep I was going to have to look. And here's a guy who, in a lot of ways, he's always goofing around and joking and stuff, and for him to say how intense that personal experience was, I think it really summed it up. But that's why this sport is great. People out there on Sunday, it's flat on the surface. It looks like it'll be really fast and fun and exciting, and it'll be challenging. That's the name, challenge.
Yeah.
But making it through all those challenges, at the end of the day, that's why we do it, because you learn something, you feel something, you experience something that you wouldn't hanging out in your chair in the living room.
Well, and that's, Mac, one of the things he said, too, is when you sit in your chair and watch the Ironman on TV, there's this wonderful music, you're sitting in air conditioning, it's beautiful Hawaii, and then you're out there, and it's freaking lava fields and the wind's howling, and he's like, wait, where's the air conditioning? Where's the beautiful music? What's going on?
Yeah, that's kind of the surprise of the day.
So Tim O'Donnell, or Timothy O'Donnell, his mom's watching, and every time I call him Tim, she scolds me. So Timothy.
T.O.
T.O., that's better, right? I just call him T.O. So T.O., when did he reach out?
We started working together basically this season.
Yeah.
And the background of it is that a couple of years ago, I think it was the first year that Rennie won.
Yes.
And
2010.
Yeah, and he was. I went to this weight room in Kona the day after the race, and here's this guy in there, and he was working on the weights, and I thought, I think that's Timothy O'Donnell.
That's right, Mom. Yes.
I'd never met him before, and so I was just going to go up and introduce myself to him. But he was so focused on what he was doing, and I looked at him, I go, this guy has what it takes.
Interesting. Yeah,
And
he
so-
does.
Yeah, and so fast forward to a year ago in the springtime, I was down at Ironman Brazil.
Yes, when he went
And-
801.
Yeah, where he went 8:01, and the course was a little long, and he would have gone sub-8 had the course been accurate.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He mentioned that. So close.
So close. So anyway, I ran into him at, the morning after the race. It was early in the morning.
Yeah.
He was walking around. I was walking around, and it was in the hallway of the hotel. We had like this 30-minute conversation
Yes.
about just about everything. I mean, it was great, you know. And so I said, hey, if you need help, you know, reach out anytime. And so it kind of became more of an official thing going into this season. But neither of us wanted to make a big splash about
Sure.
it. You know, it's like let the results start to speak for themselves.
Right.
Let the improvement show that something's going on. You know, because he can say, hey, I'm working with Mark Allen, but ultimately that doesn't mean anything if it doesn't help him.
Right. And if
And-
he's not doing the workouts, or the workouts don't work, whatever.
Right, but
and it's a lot more than workouts. It's almost like Kona is a different game than any other race out there, and you just need, like you said, polishing the diamond. You need little insights into not just the race, but the week leading in, all the different things that go along with that. It's obviously like the lights we have here. It's the biggest spotlight, right? and,
Yeah.
and it can burn you.
Yeah.
So it's important to know, and you were so good at that when you were on your streak of winning 6 times in a row of having people to buffer, right, to keep people away so that you could do what you needed to do race week, and that's a big part of it.
It is, and you know, everybody's formula is going to be a little different.
Yeah.
You know, Tim's was different than Macca's, was different than Peter's, and
Right.
Timothy O'Donnell, T.O., you know, his is going to be even different from all those 3 guys.
What skill set? What did you see in Tim besides that? Obviously, that focus that led you to believe this guy. And we haven't had an American win it since Tim DeBoom in 2002.
Yeah, well, I think focus is a biggie.
Yeah.
And it has to be the right kind of focus. Some athletes are so focused that they strangle their possibility, their
Right.
potential. But he seemed to. There was just something about the way he was going about his stuff in the gym. It just had that right mix of focus, but not strangling what was going on in
Right.
there. And you know, it was just a feeling I had. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
So I know one of the biggest things in your life has been your new book, The Art of Competition. I think we started talking about this a couple years ago, the idea of combining great photography and really meaningful prose to bring out what you've always represented, right? You always represented is getting the best out of yourself and changing your life through sport. And we will put this up here, The Art of Competition. So talk a little bit about the genesis of the book and what led you to create it. I know it's very difficult when you're doing something. It's not your typical mainstream type of book.
No, I was the backbone of the book are 90 quotes that I wrote about competition and personal excellence and overcoming challenge and how do you have that champion's mindset.
Right.
And it, for years I'd been struggling when people would say, well, what were you thinking about? How did you do it in the race? What was going on in your mind? And it's really, if I said, well, I just tried to kind of be quiet and stay right there in the moment, it fell short.
It wasn't quite enough.
It wasn't quite enough. And then about 5 years ago, I was on a retreat with Brant Secunda, who
Yes.
I've studied with for many years, shamanism, and we were in Japan. And it was near Mount Fuji. We were in this little countryside hotel, and I was laying down to take a nap one afternoon on the futon. And just as I was going to sleep, this quote came to me that had to do with competition, and I thought, well, that's kind of good. And then I start to sleep again. Another one came, and another one. I thought, I better write these down. These I know I'll forget them. And over the course of the next couple of days, I had written down almost 50 quotes.
Wow.
And and then it was like, okay, what the heck am I going to do with these things? And it took a while to come up with the concept that, these came to me through something where I was immersed in making a connection with nature. And, any triathlete knows that nature's a cool place. That's why one of the
So we're
reasons
out there.
yeah, you're running on trails, you're out there getting fresh air, de-stress, your mind is quiet, you come up with solutions that you never could have if you were sitting there at the chalkboard, you know?
Exactly.
And so I thought I should put these with photos from nature, you know, blend them together, and then just put it in a book. So that was the genesis of the idea. And then there's several text chapters that I've written about change and fear and nature. And I wanted the last chapter to be talking about my bookend Ironman victories, because for me that was my experience of turning athleticism into art.
Exactly.
You know,
No question.
And art in my concept is kind of just when you're doing something where you go beyond your ordinary to your personal extraordinary. And I really feel like those two victories were the ones that did it.
No question. No question. Well, because you think about it, the first one, you're your nemesis, right? And what I always love about that whole decade was you won everywhere else on the planet, right? 10 times in Nice, first ever world championship in Avignon. I mean, everything else, Mark Allen was a dominant guy. And then there was this one guy in this one race who kept getting in the way. And what was so cool is '89, and we always talk about, you know, in 1988 when you flatted a couple times and Dave didn't race, and it's like, oh my God, Mark should have won that day, right? But I think some things are meant to be, and I don't think it was appropriate for you to win that race unless the best guy, the guy who has always been in your way, was at the starting line and had the best race he ever had on that island. For you to beat him on the best day he ever had, to beat Dave Scott in '89, it really marked the beginning of one era and the end of another. And I think that was, you know, sometimes, you know, like you say, things in nature, things are just meant to be.
Yeah, you know, looking back, obviously the timing was absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
In the moment, it felt like it was way off.
Sure.
And there's a quote that addresses that. But I wanted to write about those two in the final chapter that I call art in here. And I thought, what am I going to write about? I've talked about these things for almost 2 decades now. What can I put in here that's going to be more compelling than anything I've said before? And I was stuck. I mean, I spent a month looking at my computer thinking today's going to be the day that I'm going to write it, and I couldn't come up with one word. And I went out surfing, and I was sitting out there in the water, and I go, really, I am stuck. And all of a sudden I thought, I'm going to write a chapter on being stuck, because everybody reaches those points where you're stuck, where you can't come up with the answers, the solutions, where you're not making progress, you know. And so I wrote this chapter about being stuck, and then it all came. And I knew exactly how I wanted to lay it out. And I think it's the best telling of those two races that I've ever done.
Love it. And obviously for our viewers, the second one is 1995 and being down by 12, 13 minutes off the bike to Thomas Hellriegel, a lot younger guy, after you had taken a year off for your mats, for your son to be born, and then coming back at the age of 37. That's very difficult to do. And you're getting off the bike and you're thinking, well, you know what? I've had a good run. I can pull off to my hotel here, but you didn't. And you realized, okay, 30 seconds a mile seems overwhelming, but let's just put one foot in front of the other. And next thing you know, 22, 23 miles in, there's Thomas Hellriegel, and you win your 6th and final Ironman title. And to me, there's certain athletes in history who have done it the right way. Jim Brown won the rushing title and retired from football. Ted Williams hit a home run in his last time at bat, right? And you won the most important race on the planet, the Ironman World Championship, on your last attempt, coming from behind at the age of 37, the oldest guy at the time to do that. And what a great way to walk away from the sport.
Yeah, I couldn't have scripted that any better. You know, going into it, I knew that was going to be my final Ironman win, lose, or draw. And so it was, you know, obviously that's a risk, because I had made that commitment to myself, like, this is it. So on one level, you know, I knew there was not going to be another chance. And that actually helped me through some of the tough moments, because if there's that thing in the back of your mind where you kind of know that, well, next year there's going to be another opportunity, there will not be another opportunity for me. And so that really helped. And I did come off the bike 13 and a half minutes. 13
and a half, okay.
So, but I just found out a couple days ago, I was at a an event that Cervelo was putting on for their retailers up in Stowe, Vermont. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And they invited me to come in and give a talk, and Dan Enfield was in there.
Yep.
And he came in and he listened to me, and I told how I was 13 and a half minutes behind and 30 seconds a mile, and he, you know, he starts raising his hand in the back room. He goes, I was on the course, and he said, you came off the bike 13 and a half minutes behind. However, I was at the point after you go down into the pit and back up and go out. It was about a mile and a half into it. You'd lost another minute because I had timed it. So you actually had to make up 14 and a half minutes. Even better. I'm like, wow, this story's getting better with age.
I was down, and I was running in brick shoes.
Yeah. So I never knew that Hellriegel had gained a minute on me in the first mile and a half or so.
Nice.
But then in the end, it was my day.
Was it hard to walk away? To walk away from the sport? Because, you know, look at, there are a lot of guys, that's where your livelihood is, right? Mm-hmm. Your livelihood is as an athlete. Your identity is as an athlete. So then you're immediately going from an athlete to motivational speaker and trying to reinvent Mark Allen. How hard was that?
It was pretty easy. You know, I knew that as an athlete, you're going to have your athletic death way before the big one, hopefully. And so I was preparing for that. I had asked a lot of people at Nike, you know, what's the biggest thing you see as the problem for athletes moving on? And the overwhelming advice was to just keep it in your mind. They said that, you know, you might be the best or one of the best at your sport, but whatever you go into next when you start out, you will not be the best guy.
Oh, that's really a good point.
And so I was ready to be
crappy.
Yeah, I was ready to be really lousy at the next thing. And so the transition was easy, but you know, it's not like I literally left the sport. You know, I'm still involved with the sport. Out here I am at Challenge Atlantic City.
Well, you've got Mark Allen Online, right? A training program. Yeah.
So it's, you know, I'm still involved, which is great. It's a great community of people and athletes, and they're doing good things to make themselves healthy and all that kind of stuff. And so, you know, I'm still around it.
What's interesting is, as a elite athlete, a lot of times you can be sort of insulated from the rest of us sort of slow guys, right? Mm-hmm. So as you've become more connected to that, to the average housewife and working guy who wants to change his life through the sport, I'm assuming you didn't have a lot of connection to those folks before. Has that been rewarding for you?
Oh yeah, you know, to take people that have very limited time, and help them realize this dream of doing a triathlon or doing a half distance race or a full distance race. You know, it's just it's fun to be able to give them the tools to be able to do that through the coaching and through my experiences. And, you know, it's all the same, actually. You know, we're all trying to maximize our bag of skills and our bag of what we can pull stuff out of. So, you know, it just happened that my bag was a little bigger because I had more time to train. But, you know, they're bumping up against the same type of sort of limitations that you have to take a little one step beyond every now and then. And so that part is just universal for all of us.
Love it. So, Mark, where do people get The Art of Competition?
The Art of Competition, you can pre-order it right now at the website that talks about the book, art-of-competition, art-of-competition. There's two versions. One is this one here that you're seeing right now, and there's a second that's a limited edition. Oh. And I'm only printing 600 of them. They're going to be signed and numbered. They come in a box sleeve, and there's a bonus section in there where I've taken 24 quotes out of the main body of the book and given expanded thoughts on what those are and what they mean and how they help me. And you know, there's only going to be 600 printed ever in English. So, and about half of them have already been sold, have been pre-ordered. So,
I love that.
Check it out. It's pretty unique. These will be available in bookstores and Amazon around mid-August.
So, when you're telling this story, obviously you're telling the story not just with your words, but with photography. Talk a little bit about the photographer who you connected with for this.
For the main body of the book, the majority of the photos are from a guy that I had, his name is Nick Borelli.
Yes.
And I live in Santa Cruz. There are certain places along the coast where everybody goes to check out the surf.
Right.
And there's one of those places 2 blocks from my house. So every day I'm down there checking it out. And this guy, Nick, I met just hanging out there
Sure.
because he would be checking the surf out. Big guy, probably, I don't know, over 250. And I'd also seen him in the water taking shots of guys surfing. So I knew that he did photography. And one day he said, "Hey, Mark, I'm going to be doing this charity bike ride. It's going to be 100 miles. I've never ridden before, but I just want to do something for my health." And he said, "Can I ask you some questions every now and then?" I said, "Sure, yeah, no problem."
Yeah.
So he, over the next 6 months or so, he asked me questions every now and then. I'd see him at the end of Rockview, my place. And one night I got an email and he said, "Hey, I just want to let you know I completed that bike ride, and I just can't tell you how much I appreciated being able to ask you, how to get ready for it." And at the bottom was his website. And I'd never seen his photography before, so I thought, oh, let me see what he's got. I figured it was going to be a bunch of surf stuff.
Right.
And I went on his website, and there were all these incredible shots from nature. And I thought, this is what I want to have in the book. This is going to complete it. And I didn't have his phone number, and I didn't want to put it in an email, so I thought if it's going to work out, it'll work out. The next day, I went down to Rockview at 3:30 in the afternoon.
There he is.
And literally less than a minute later, Nick pulls up, and I go, "Nick, I have an idea for you." So he has the bulk of the photos in the limited edition.
Yep.
There's photos that I have that my son has submitted in there, and then also Brant's son Nico.
Okay.
And then in the main book,
Yeah.
there's one photo that is from Nico's, and so I'm having it tells in the back which one it is, but I'm having a little thing on Facebook when this is coming out to have people guess which one it is before they look.
Ah.
So there's a mystery photo in here from one from Nico Secunda that's not Nick's.
I love that it's Grip Press.
Grip Press, yeah.
I like that.
And 10% of the profits from the book are going to the Huichol Foundation,
Love
which
it.
helps support the Huichol culture down in Mexico. So it's it's not just about what I'm doing.
No,
It's
you're always
to
giving back.
benefit. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I tell people all the time that you were the guy at the first San Diego Triathlon Challenge for their first CAF event that you were like, "Hey, this is about athletes helping athletes,"
Yeah.
and I'll never forget that. That's exactly what it was all about. Mark, thank you as always, Mr. Grip Press.
Mr. Babbitt.
Hey, love the book. It's spectacular. Mark Allen has been our guest. This was Breakfast with Bob from Challenge Atlantic City. Hold on, everyone. We'll be right back.
Child feet were fireproof.